Today I am going to be sharing 5 mistakes that you might be making that could be aging you when it comes to your hair. And more importantly, I'm going to share how you can help your hair and help you to look more youthful. Now, let me back up. Of course, when I say youthful, I don't mean look like you're 15. I just mean look like the best version of yourself for whatever age you're at. And if you're wondering, why am I listening to this guy out in the middle of the woods? Well, my name's Justin Hickox, if you're new to me. I've been doing hair for 26 years, and to be completely honest, I feel like sitting in front of a ring light makes me want to beat my head against the wall. So instead, I come out to the wild, where I have a lot more fun, and I figure you can either look at the back of a wall while I give you these tips, or you can look at some beautiful scenery. Okay, so here's the first mistake I see, and that is adding basically too much bend and really just kind of not styling your hair the right way. It's so broad. Okay, so follow me here. One of the things that happens as we age is that many times our hair is going to change texture. And when it changes texture, typically it'll go to a little bit drier looking or a little bit more coarse. And if it's more coarse, that can translate as looking a little bit drier or frizzier. Now, one of the things that I see people do when they're styling their hair is just not using the right tool to really achieve that. I know that a lot of you might not want to use flat irons or just refuse to use flat irons in general. So I totally understand that, but follow me on this tip anyway, because this may impact your decision whether or not you want to use one. There's something about a flat iron, the way that it delivers heat is different than any other hot tool or tool in general that we use. It's the only tool that actually addresses both sides of that hair strand, adding heat evenly to both sides versus one side being much hotter. Even curling irons that have the clamp don't deliver the same amount of heat. The barrel is going to heat up much hotter than the clamp itself. I believe that because that flat iron delivers the same amount of heat to both sides, it smooths the cuticle down in a way that just nothing else has the ability to. And when we smooth that cuticle down, it's going to have a tendency to look a little bit more vibrant and i.e. more youthful. But here's the second part to this. Many times I see people using round brushes or curling irons or whatever to add volume to their hair or add bend, but what they end up is with a lot of bend at the very ends. The flat iron, because you can control the amount of bend you get more effectively, can give your hair more of a bend versus a curl at the bottom, and that has a tendency to flow a lot nicer, no matter what length we're talking about here, as well as it just looks a bit more modern and kind of chic, if you will. Now, I've done a lot of videos, and I'll link one at the end on how to flat iron your hair the right way, but to give you a very quick overview, what'll have a tendency to happen is people will put a flat iron in their hair, and they'll bend their wrist, and that bend in their wrist creates that little bend at the bottom. If you instead lock your wrist, you're going to create a bend in your hair, but you're not going to create that bend at the very bottom. It's going to be a more uniform kind of C shape, and that's really where you're going to get that more youthful feel from. So, yes, that's mistake number 1, and tip number 1 and 1.5. We'll say that. All right. Okay, now before the next tip, I know you can probably hear the river in the background, so I apologize for the background noise with that, trying to minimize that as much as possible. But let's be honest, that view does not suck. And there's an eagle. You're kidding? I wish I could show you this. Oh my gosh, there's an eagle flying. Right? Oh, I hope you see it. Wait, pretty soon. Nope, you're not going to see it. Oh, that stinks. And also, that's a hawk, not an eagle. Okay, I never claimed to be some sort of wildlife biologist. Anyway, back to the tips. So the second mistake that I see people make is not wanting or kind of refusing to use any sort of products. Now, first of all, let me just preface this. I'm not trying to sell you products, okay? If you don't want to use products, that's fine. I totally get it. I'm just sharing insight right now on what I see when you don't. And here's why I think that if you're concerned about the texture of your hair and you want your hair to have a more youthful appearance, in turn creating a more youthful appearance for yourself, there are times where we just need products to do things because our hair naturally won't do it. As I said in the last tip, our hair is going to change as we age. So if you want to address those things, we are many times in a place where we need to use some sort of product to address it. Now, the other time that we're going to need product is to create volume. I hear a lot of times people say, my hair is thicker. I don't want to use products because I don't want it to be thicker or fuller. One of the most important things to do when we're trying to look more youthful is create volume where we want to create volume or where we need to create volume to accentuate certain things about our face shape, to help lift things up, to accentuate cheek structure, to lift jaw bone structure. And those are the situations where even though you have thick hair, you still need some sort of foundational product to create that, because many times, often, especially in thick hair, your hair is heavy enough that if we don't give it something to create volume, then you're really going to struggle even more. Now, this is also obviously very true with medium, any other texture of hair as well. That is the second mistake. I'm going to enjoy this horrible view here for a second, and I'll see you in the next mistake. Okay, I think I found the perfect little place to have a seat here and talk to you about the next two tips. Two. So the next two tips have to do with hair length and color. So the mistake I see when it comes to length is trying to get your hair too long. Stop. I already know, I'm not saying anything bad about long hair. Many times around the hairline, around the bang area, right, stuff like that in the very front, many times that can go a bit thinner, and it isn't always just that it thins at the scalp, for instance, and looks less dense. Many times it looks thick at the root-ish, and as it grows longer towards the end of that little section, that hair starts to look thinner and thinner and thinner. Now, the concern with this is, let's say in the past you've had long layers in the front, and that's what you really liked, and your hair is longer, so that kind of made sense. But it may turn out now that those ends don't really support that length anymore. So what's going to work better, function better for you, is to take that length up to where that hair is dense and actually create the illusion of more density. Now, on the flip side, maybe you're in a situation where you've got really thick hair and you're like, well, my hair is super thick, so it can easily warrant that extra length. Technically speaking, you're right, but as your hair gets longer, your layers have to be longer to balance with the length. And in that case, it can get really heavy, and many times people have a tendency to actually pull their hair back at that length. And then if it's too thick and heavy, you might be experiencing headaches, all sorts of concerns or issues with it. But more importantly, from a shape perspective, it can have a tendency to get very overwhelming, just to be a lot of hair, and it may actually draw you down and draw you out. And this is also going to vary depending on your frame. If you're a shorter person like myself, or you're a small frame and you've got a lot of hair, well, this can just be overpowering. Okay, so let's talk about the next mistake, and that is simply doing the wrong color, many times to minimize gray or to help hide the gray. Now, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard a rumor that as we get older, our hair goes gray. I don't know what that's like. Do you know what that's like? I've never even heard of that. Weird. Mine's definitely not gray. But anyway, nonetheless, so here's what I see a lot of times in the salon. People start going gray, and many times you start going gray kind of around your hairline to begin with, right? That's always where we want to see gray the first, is right in our, next to our face, right? But that's typically where it happens. And so what I see happen is clients will say, well, I want to go lighter around the face to basically break up that gray and kind of hide that. If you're really trying to minimize the gray, you're gonna have to go not just light, but also pretty cool in tone to get close to that gray. If it's off too much, you're still gonna see that gray come through in those gray roots. So what'll end up happening is if you sacrifice the right tone for your skin tone in an effort to try to minimize the gray, you might find that the benefit of minimizing the gray really isn't that much of a benefit because you're still going to see it. And the detriment of not having a color that matches your skin tone ends up being far worse than the gray was in the very beginning. So many times as we age, what can be a little bit more flattering on us to really bring back in some color is to kind of warm that color up a little bit. I don't mean orange. I just mean a little bit warmer as opposed to a white, cool blonde. Okay, are you ready? This is a big one. Now, the reason that this is a tough one and that a lot of people are not going to love hearing this is because this is not a simple fix. This isn't something that you can just take a trick with the flat iron or use the right product or color your hair and all of a sudden have this dramatic impact. There are two things that I would argue impact our hair more than anything else, and those two things are nutrition and stress. Not only does this play a huge role in our hair, it obviously plays a huge role in everything else. This is a large part of what my channel is all about. Not just nutrition, but more importantly, I give tips to help people feel more confident because confidence helps to relieve stress. if you're a little bit more confident about your situation, about your life, about yourself, and about what's going on, you're going to have a tendency to be a little bit less stressed. And I know that stress plays a massive impact. It's really hard to control all the day-to-day stresses, but nonetheless, taking simple actions, meditation, breathing practices, whatever it is, all of those things impact your stress levels, and those things not only impact your day-to-day life and your physical being, but also your hair. Your hair does not grow from the ends, it grows from the scalp. That means that what is internally going on is showing up externally in our hair. One of the questions I get asked a lot are, do vitamins work? Do nutritional vitamins, hair vitamins, and stuff like that work for our hair? Yeah, technically in some cases, not all of them, but in some cases they can help, right? Because our hair does need certain vitamins and minerals and nutrients to be at its best. But more importantly, the better place to find this stuff from is actually through real, true, honest food. I see people every day spending tons of hard-earned money on products, on quick fixes, on whatever it is. I see you taking your time, investing your time, watching my videos where I share tips on how to style your hair, how to use products, or how to cut it. I see people doing this stuff all the time, but then everybody is so worried about what flat iron they're using, or if they're using heat, or the way they're doing this or the way they're doing that, because they're so concerned about their hair health, but they're overlooking one of the most important aspects of hair health, which is internal health. So to me, it's not a matter of one thing fixes it all. It's a bunch of little things that add up. I hope that didn't come off too much like some sort of lecture, but it is very important, and it's probably the most important tip that I can share and the most dramatic mistake that I see happen. So yes, I hope you guys like those tips, and I hope that they helped you. Now, if they did, do me the solid, hit that subscribe button. You stuck around this long, you're clearly interested in the content. We'll find some more. I upload every Tuesday. Otherwise, if you have any questions, I would love to hear them. Comment below, let me know. And the rest of the time, I'm going to spend enjoying this river, this view. Again, does not suck. And we will see you next Tuesday. You have a great afternoon.